So
and
beautiful.
and people responded so strongly to that and were DMing me like, how do you do this? I have this conflict with this person in my family, this person at work, da da da. And I was like, I think this is, I'm being asked to show up.
Welcome to the Daniela Baumann Show, a podcast for strong women, inspiration, and real life stories. Today, I'm very happy to welcome Yaya DaCosta. Many people know her from Chicago Med, Ugly Betty, and the movie The Kids Are All Right. She also played Whitney Houston in the Lifetime movie Whitney, directed by Angela Bassett. Today, we talk about her life, her strength, and how women can believe in themselves and grow. But before you start, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Daniela Baumann Show, like this episode, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any episode. Let's begin. Hello, my dear.
Daniela.
What a beautiful, beautiful woman you are.
Thank you. Likewise. Likewise. I think the admiration was mutual. We both spoke at the Gladiator Summit here in Dubai, and in the green room where all the speakers are sitting, as soon as I saw you, we just connected. And who would have thunk that only days later I'm sitting here on your podcast? Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for seeing me, recognizing.
Seeing you, I recognize you.
I see you.
And I feel your energy.
Thank you, likewise.
So beautiful. Oh my God, it's so important, in this world, when you meet like-minded women, that you also stay connected.
Yes.
And I was feeling there is a journey for us, and I feel your heart. You have a very big heart, and you have a son, me as well, 2 sons. And it connects right away. And I'm so happy and also thankful that we meet at the Gladiator Summit.
I know,
and
what an epic event
have this
that was.
amazing time together.
Yes, thank you so much.
Wow. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Absolutely. I come from Harlem, New York City.
Wow.
In the U.S., and my parents are retired educators. They ran a Montessori school for a long time, and my father was a professor of sociology. They sent their 4 children to all the best schools. We all went to Ivy Leagues, which are the top universities in the United States. And after school, while I was preparing to take a job in Geneva at the United Nations, I decided to pause and to see if this passion from childhood of acting, which I had done through educational films.
Wow.
In junior high school.
What kind of educational films?
So back in the day, they would have these projects that they would do in order to teach kids moral lessons and things like that. And you would do skits, and then the tape would stop after the skit, and they would say, well, in this situation, should Tanya do A, B, or C? Mm-hmm. And then the kids would answer, the class would discuss, and then they would move on to the next skit. So they had to have child actors to relate to the children in the classrooms when they were teaching these lessons. So I got hired to do a few of these, and because my acting coach in junior high school at age 11 sent me on auditions.
And this is amazing.
I just remembered the feeling of like being in her class and being on stage and then being in front of the camera. It taught me so much. It gave me so many tools. That's where I learned energy work. Mm-hmm. I learned that the art of acting is actually a spiritual game if one chooses to use it that way. Because I used it to work through and heal myself from Tourette's syndrome and just other things that I was dealing with as a very young person. And so even after college, I thought, I'm going to give this a chance. And my very first audition was for Take the Lead, which was a dance movie. I grew up dancing like you.
Wow, I can't believe it.
All the ballet, modern jazz, all the things. And I was like, this could not be more perfect, because part of me thought I would be a dancer, but acting is the path that called me instead. And the fact that the first movie was, acting and ballroom dancing at the same time was just incredible. It was with Antonio Banderas, Alfre Woodard.
Wow.
And then after that film, which I was a lead in,
Yeah.
right? Imagine your first movie, you're the star. It was like an initiation into Hollywood,
Yes.
And I just took it very seriously. I did other things on the side. I was modeling. A lot of people know me from having been on a reality show in 2004, modeling. But I knew that I needed to give the acting thing a real shot before I gave it up. Mm-hmm. And I never gave it up because it never gave up on me. I just kept working.
This is so beautiful. The most beautiful point, you follow your passion. And this was my own experience.
Yeah.
I remember as a teenager, I loved to dance. I create my first choreo to Donna Summer Hot Stuff.
Oh no!
With chairs at the time. I choreo. I create the whole choreo and everything in the age of 12.
Oh my!
And then I say, oh my God, this is my passion. And then in the age of 16, my parents asked me what I want to do in life, and I tell them I want to be a dancer, and they say, no, this is not a job at this time. Today, yes, but at this time, no. Mm-hmm. But for me, I never gave up in my passion.
Yes.
I was thinking from my mind, when I like to do something, it has to be with passion, not like work. Mm-hmm. I never work in my life. I always do the passion, things what I love, and that's why it's so similar to you.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
I really love it.
Thank you. And I do a lot of other things too, and they're still passions. I am a doula and an apprentice midwife. I support birthing people. I've done that for 16 years as well on the side. And people are like, but why? I don't get it. You're a successful actress. You have this other career. Why would you want to be sitting around with pregnant people for hours waiting for their babies to come? And I'm like, because I love it, because it's a passion, because it feels like it's part of my purpose in some way.
Yeah.
And now I'm coming to a place where I understand why these things called me and how they're actually connected.
Yes.
They're actually not that, random as they may seem, and I'm now currently working on a documentary about birth work and ending the maternal mortality crisis that we're dealing with, especially in the United States, where I am from and where I live, and in the world. The statistics are just really shocking, and a lot of mothers are dying unnecessarily. They're preventable deaths, and so this is a passion of mine: is supporting women in who are interested in being mothers, in having an experience that honors their wisdom, their intuition, the natural functioning of their bodies. It's just like, how do we empower women in this process that initiates so many of us, not all of us, but so many of us, into this other version of motherhood, of womanhood, which is motherhood.
Yes.
Right?
But this is so beautiful, This is the true no one speak about, the challenges to become a mother, the challenges, everything, also with the hormones and everything. I think it's a very important topic.
Yeah.
But when you found this idea from your own experience?
So my sister in 2010 asked me to support her in her birth when she was pregnant with my niece. So that was my first doula baby.
Wow.
And I got hooked. When she asked me, I was like, what's a doula? I wasn't even sure. And did my research, took a course, did my certification, did all the things, and realized that there was something in me that felt so at home in that position, There are things that I knew that I didn't know why I knew. I knew
comes
when
like
to
a
do
call
something.
or something?
Absolutely. And I didn't realize it until I was in that position. And then I did it again because a friend of a friend heard that I had done this and was like, oh, well, can she help me? And then another friend got pregnant and then another. And it just became, I would be on set working and
Wow.
someone in the wardrobe department on the TV show that I was working on was pregnant and was needing help, and she asked me to be her doula. So I literally leave set at 9 p.m., go to the hospital, I'm with her, she gives birth at 4 p.m., and I'm back on set at 7 a.m. You know what I mean?
Wow.
It was like, at 4 a.m., sorry. It was just such an amazing exploration of how to do these two things at the same time. And now I'm in a place where, no, I'm not going to have time to necessarily be at so many births all the time. But my lived experience of having been on the front lines of this, in this space, means that when I stand on a stage and I speak about not just the crisis, but the solutions, what needs to change. Like, I've seen it in real time. I've sat at the feet of clinical and traditional midwives and learned from them, everywhere from the United States to Colombia to Uganda. There are people who are doing it right, who have never lost the mother in decades. And we, in the so-called modern world, have so much to learn from them.
Yes.
So that's what I'm on a mission to share
it's
now.
so beautiful.
Thank
I
you.
didn't know it. It's so beautiful to hear that. Was there a moment in your life when you had to be very brave and really believe in yourself? Was there a moment?
Many moments. Many moments.
Did you have an example?
Yeah.
Yeah, where you can share with our audience.
I think that the bravest that I have had to be was choosing not to quit a job that started on Monday, when the day before, Sunday, I learned that my big brother had been in an accident.
Oy.
And he was on life support, and I wanted to fly down there. He was on an island in the Caribbean, and I was on the mainland in the States, and I had this job, and it was only 5 days. But the character was very bubbly and fun, and it was like a hip-hop film, and it was just a high-energy film. And all I wanted to do was curl up into a ball and cry and get on the plane and go be in the hospital with him.
Of course.
And I had signed this contract and made this commitment. My parents went down there, and I decided that I would do the job and that I would wrap on Friday and immediately go down there after. Now, the reason that I felt comfortable doing this was because my brother visited me in a dream on the Sunday before.
Oy.
And even though the body was being supported by the machines, the soul had already departed. And he let me know that that was it. And so it was very difficult to be holding this information when everyone is like on pins and needles, like, hey, I saw, his finger moved. Does that mean something? And the doctor's like, oh, that's just a reflex. That's just the body just automatically does that. And that doesn't mean that he's waking up, right? It's a very stressful time, right?
Yes.
And then I'm on set playing this character who's like cracking jokes and like being flirtatious with these men and just like completely out of body experience. And it really showed me that, one, as an artist, I really am capable of doing anything because that was the last thing I wanted to do. And then two, that, there is something to our dreams. There is something to, communicating with loved ones, whether they're in a physical body or not. And that opened up, so much for me. I still have the best relationship with my big brother, and it's been goodness, 13 years.
Wow.
You know? But it was very brave for me to show up on set.
Of course.
It was brave for me to not show anyone what was going on. They could never tell, you know?
I called it showtime. I called it
Showtime.
always like showtime.
Yeah.
When you be in front of people as a choreographer or as a dancer or as an actress, and there is something situation one day before or 1 hour before, and then you have to show up, show the people there is like nothing, you know, everything is okay with you, and then you have to perform.
Yeah.
And I think this is really, really hard.
It's so hard.
Really challenging. But also you like to give value to the people. But what is important, that you don't forget yourself. And I think women are many times like this in another situation, that they give so much to other people. When I remember, I want to make everyone happy. It's like us, the
100%.
children, the family, the friends, and then at the end you find yourself last in the row. And I had this experience also for many years, and I, as a dancer and choreograph in the younger age, I had many situations like this or similar like this, where I thought, oh my God, now the show must go on. You know,
Absolutely.
and I think when you work in this kind of industry, you have to be brave, you have to be strong, but today I learn also to say no.
I was just gonna say something. I was just gonna say that if that had, God forbid, that were to happen today, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, it's interesting, no?
I'm proud of myself, right?
Yeah.
Because this is the example that came to my mind when you asked the question about being brave. So I look at that behavior as brave, and I applaud it, but that doesn't mean I'm going to do it again.
I know exactly what you mean. Same.
Yeah.
I look back today and I think, wow, in this situation, I search more myself. But at this time, I want to do everything perfect. I think this was the perfectionism, what I feel, the perfection. Also take care about my dancers, that everyone is happy, you know, make them happy, like little babies. I had like dancing groups with 30, 40 people. And I feel like I'm a mother for everyone. But today, when I be true, I choose myself.
Good.
But this is a learning.
It is a learning. And it's especially a learning in how to do that without the guilt.
Yes.
Because what happens is like, okay, finally, you know, I did all this for other people, and now I'm learning self-care. But then it's like, there's this discomfort that comes with it because we're so unpracticed at giving to ourselves. And so that's what it is. It's not, you know, self-care isn't meant to be cute.
Yes.
In my opinion, it's meant to be practice.
Of
you
course,
know?
and learning.
Yeah.
We learn, I think.
Recommitting to the most important relationship in your life is with yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I learned it very late.
It's
never too late.
It's never too late.
But when I look back and I think, oh my God, I spent so much time to talk about relationships where I'm not happy, and to spend time to think about why these women or this man react like this, or why they put so many stones in my way. Today I understand the things so much better, and that's my next question. What does being a strong woman mean to you today?
Yeah, you know, wow. A strong woman. I feel like I have, and I'm not the only one. I've heard, it's almost a trend, I think, these days to talk about being soft instead of strong.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of women are trying to undo the programming about the strong woman because that's what was applauded. Right?
Yeah.
It's like
we learn to
you're a
be
good
strong.
girl when you
yes.
are behaving, or when you're in your masculine energy. We all have masculine and feminine within us. It's not that we're behaving like men, but it's our ability to, you know, do what I did. Go to work and push through and, you know, dishonor my emotions and and my body and my mind, and like perform and be great at the expense of my myself. That's applauded. You're so strong, good girl. But actually today, strength to me is the ability to maintain my center, which is very soft. I'm a very feminine woman, and I have now tools that support me in being able to protect my softness without becoming hard, without becoming, without showing up in the world with a shell, or a wall. I'm not a tortoise. Like you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
But that's what we feel like we have to do. I grew up in New York City. You had to, listen, I grew up in Harlem. When you went outside,
Yeah. Oh my
as soon
gosh.
as that body started developing, it was like, oh my gosh, there are predators everywhere. I have to be, I would wear my brother's baggy clothes. I was always on ready to, defend myself. And that was not good for me.
No.
That was not good. And so when I learned to honor the truth of who I am and what feels best for me, I feel strong when I'm, not to overuse the word soft, but when I'm gentle, when I'm feminine, when I'm, and when I'm allowed to be fierce at the same time, because that's also feminine energy. That's also the goddess.
I love this.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like knowing when, kind
Yeah.
of like I spoke about at our summit, the Gladiator Summit, knowing the different parts of ourselves and being conscious enough to know when is appropriate to bring what part forth at what time. So strength for me today is consciousness.
Yeah, this is so beautiful. I have the same experience. I remember when I built up my business in
Yes.
Switzerland, I feel like I have to be strong, I have to be the power woman, and I feel also there was not a lot of support. And then I see, I don't get support, okay, I can do it everything by myself. I become this powerful woman without any support, not a problem at all. But then I lose my feminine energy.
Yeah.
And this was very hard. And I think that's why today I support women, bring them together, open a Women Leaders Club, why I found we can support each other.
Yes.
It's so much easier when you have a support from other women, and then you don't lose your feminine energy. I think the balance, what you shared before, is also very important. You can be strong, but you can be feminine.
Yes.
You can be, what I can say, beautiful and stay in your consciousness, stay in your energy without always pushing. You know what I mean?
Ooh.
Yeah.
So someone walked up to me the other day at the 1 billion follower summit and said, I just have to say, she didn't know who I was. You're so magnetic. And I was like, thank you. I kid you not. That is one of the best compliments that you could give me, because what it means is that the work that I've been doing to cultivate my magnetism, to cultivate the power to receive and to pull, to draw, rather than the power to push, which is what you're talking about. To have it's nice when there's confirmation out in the world that says, good job, keep going. It's working.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. But also, it's like, for me, today, I start to love myself some years ago, and I didn't know what is love, self-love. I was thinking I need to do everyone happy and then they love me. I don't find the love in myself, but when I start with meditation, breath work, sometimes I sit in this breath work and I say, oh my God, what a beautiful moment with myself, with my soul. I don't need anyone from outside. I don't need anyone who say, oh my God, you are so beautiful, you are successful or something like this. I sit there and think, in a moment I don't need anything. And this is the most beautiful thing what I experienced in my life. I never had this in the past where I was so focused on business, what is also good.
Yes.
But today I'm so happy that I found the love to myself.
Yes.
And this is not selfish. This is when you love yourself, you can love others.
Yes.
Others.
Deeply.
I start to love women. I start to see the pain in them. I look them and think, and I feel like, oh my God, she has so much pain. And before I don't realize this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Before I was, of course, when I saw beautiful women, I make her compliments. And I think this is very important. But today I see the pain, I see the love, I see everything. And this is so beautiful.
Because you've had the experience of knowing yourself and loving yourself through your own journey of pain and triumph, of struggle and, you know, survival to thriving, you know. And so when you see that in another, you recognize that, you know, and you're on the other side of it. So you can help them. And that's so beautiful.
It's so beautiful. But let's dive in the film industry.
Let's get into it.
Oh my God. How you handle everything, how you handle the pressure. How was your first experience? Did you have also bad experience in the beginning? How starts your film career at this point?
Yeah, my first film was incredible. However, many people saw me first, even though I'd been acting since childhood, they saw me first as a model because I was out, you know, again, after college, like, let me just try it. Like, let's see what else I can do, you know? Like, people tell me I should try, so I tried it. I experienced more difficulty in that industry than I did as an actor, which is why I didn't do it for very long, because I have a voice. And as a model, I didn't. As an actress, even though I'm speaking other people's words, I'm interpreting them. I'm giving them my flavor. You know, I'm participating in the creation of art that I can feel, you know, which was deeper for me than a beautiful picture, which is also great. And I still would love to, you know, I do that sometimes when I can. But acting for me, I always remembered that, you know, when I'm approaching it from a place of not just an artist, but also a human being reflecting the human experience back to itself, that it becomes not just about me. And then I'm in service. And that's what makes me feel like I'm on purpose, whether it's acting or birth work or speaking on stages. I love to be in service, and I think that that is one of the things that I'm meant to do in this lifetime. So my teacher, who was the same teacher, Ann Willis Rattray, who sent me on auditions at 11 years old and put me in those educational films, is the same teacher that after college I came back to in her master class, in her living room on the Upper West Side in New York City. And she said, if you really want to do this, you need to come and be with me every single week. And every Thursday I would be in her class of people of all ages and really hone in on my craft. I studied with others as well, Lloyd Richards and different studios in New York, but she was my anchor. And she was a very deeply spiritual woman.
Wow, interesting.
She had, at 11 years old, I don't know if these other parents know this and how they would feel about it, but she had us chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, like in public junior high school in New York City, like in order to kind of like center the class and drop in and get us out of our, you know, you know, being nervous and being insecure and ready to perform in front of our friends. Like, that's how she connected us. That's how she dropped us into our breath. So I always incorporated meditation in some way into my practice and didn't even realize it. I wasn't calling it that yet. But I was like, okay, I got to get into character. I would have to step away. I would, you know, take it very seriously. And so I think you know, having that as an anchor and remembering that I'm here to be in service and it's not just about me, helped make the kind of cliches that we hear make sense and feel true. Ones like, what is for you can't miss you, right? As actors, we audition constantly, we're rejected constantly. You can't possibly do every job you audition for. And so rejection, you know, or a reframing of how you see rejection is a part of life, and it becomes necessary to keep showing up and stay confident,
and
you know,
also
and
positive,
stay
no?
positive
Wow.
and stay, you know, hopeful. And there are times where you feel like this was written for me, I just know it. And then sometimes you get that.
Yeah.
And sometimes you know this is written for me, I just know it, and then you don't. And you have to have a sense of self in those moments, whether it's positive or negative. We can't let any outer feedback determine how we feel about ourselves.
Yes.
Our self-worth has to come from within. And my parents are number one to thank for that. Mrs. Rattray, and, you know, her approach to acting is number two. My spiritual practice, meditation, is number three. My ancestors, you know, this is actually out of order probably, but it's really, you know, these are the different elements that make me remember that I am exactly who and where I'm meant to be. How can I worry about Hollywood saying, oh, your hair is too textured, we need it straight, or you're too dark for this role, or your features are too this or that. It's like, I have photos of the people who came before me.
Yes.
You know, and I look like them, and I love them, and they sacrificed for me to be here. So how can I not love?
Yes.
You know, the
it's
pieces.
a beautiful input, what you say, you know, to
Yeah.
handle everything. Spirituality and also meditation helps you and that way.
Yeah.
Did you have a lot of strange or what I can say experience where you look back and you think, this hurts you in your confidence? Did you have this kind of experience? Let's share it. Support other women. There is always a way out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how you handle it, of course.
It's so interesting because as a someone who loves astrology, you know, Scorpio stellium, that tends to be one like characteristic of that sign tends to be privacy. And so it's taken a lot for me to realize that, okay, you say you're here to be in service. Well, that means you have to share. That means you have to be more transparent. That means you have to so even in you saying that, I'm like, oh, I'm not used to talking about the past or like trauma because I don't want to give it any energy. That's not the point here. The point is to, like you said, inspire. Maybe someone else listening is dealing with this too.
It's always
so
like
I'm just prefacing it with that because I'm still practicing, you know, being, you know, using this muscle. One example that is quite public is that when I was, as soon as I graduated from college and decided, okay, I'm not going to go do, you know, political work, I'm going to actually, you know, try this acting thing. I also did modeling, and my first introduction to the modeling world was on a reality TV show called America's Next Top Model.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And it was hosted by Tyra Banks. And my experience on that show, one, you know, I journal, I've always journaled. I have suitcases full of journals. Like the LA fires happened and I had to evacuate my home. My home was okay, thank goodness. And, you know, I feel for everyone who can't say that. But it was interesting packing up and deciding what was really important, what I wanted to take with me if everything else had to go. And I took journals. You know, I realized that, you know, these pieces of evidence of my life story were so important to me. And in my journal at that time, that year, the account of my experience is very different from what aired on television. And the dissonance between those two things, and between the experience, like having a memory and then having, you know, family members, friends, and audience, and strangers viewing something different and then asking me questions and relating to me as the character that was written on the show rather than the person who had the experience. Mm-hmm. And that was a very difficult time. I felt deeply misunderstood.
I totally understand.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. Not many people know it, but I was also in a reality show. It calls Girls Camp.
Wow.
It was in the German TV.
Wow.
And there, it was, I think, 3,000 women apply for to be in the Girls Camp show.
Yeah.
And I get a possibility. And they put 10 women in a villa, in Spain, beautiful, huge villa. And the experience for the women is that they're sent one man, and they want that we are fight for this man.
Yeah.
The only problem was the men are not hot enough. No, really, they are not hot enough that everyone say, you can take it. And then the whole show, was like, they try, of course, it was the concept, mm-hmm. but no one fight for this.
Oh, that's
and
funny.
Then they give you characters, they give at the end,
yes.
you look the show and think, oh, that's not me. You don't, they give you a character who is totally different to you, and they try to put you in positions or something you don't say, but they cut it in the wrong way. I get a totally different personality.
Isn't it
Did
something?
you had the same experience?
I did. Well, it was interesting because on one hand, I could see that there were moments that were from a completely different day or week cut into an episode to tell a story or to heighten the emotion or to get the audience disgusted or to put them on one character's side versus another. And then I saw myself saying things that I wouldn't say. And I'm like, but okay, granted, we didn't have phones. We couldn't communicate with anyone.
Yes.
We, were very, they didn't give us much time to sleep, right? So it's putting you in this state of like exhaustion and competition and stress. And when people are stressed, emotions are heightened, right? So that's on purpose. And then what I didn't realize until after was that when they say, would you repeat the question and the answer because the interviewer's not on camera, what they're really doing is saying, say what I'm saying and then expand on it, mm-hmm. even if it's something that you would never say, right? Or if it's something that you didn't notice or, or would have talked about. But because that was I spoke to the writers at the wrap party of the show, and I was like, writers? They're writers? Oh, that makes sense. And then it all started to really come together, you know what I mean? And then at the same time, if I looked back on it, like, yeah, there were things that I did that were cringe because I was young. We all have things that we've done that were cringe.
Yes, and they want to have drama. They want to have drama. The only thing what they want is drama.
Of
but
course.
This is interesting for the people,
Yes.
when they look at the show, they want to see
entertaining. Yes, of course. But
so
on a personal,
yes,
I understand, and that's and they always said it was never about modeling; it was for entertainment.
Yes.
Now they admit that, right? But I think at the on a personal level, what it taught me was that I had to learn self-forgiveness, mm-hmm. Ownership over my part in that story. Mm-hmm. And then, cool, to do better. But because I did that work, I've exercised that muscle and I'm able to forgive other people. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the main purposes of my first online course is mm-hmm. forgiveness. I was able to forgive myself. I was able to forgive Tyra Banks. And I showed her that when we met just this last year. We ran into each other at an event, and I was like, wow, all these years later, I can finally give her this gift of forgiveness, and give it to myself and be free,
So
and
beautiful.
And people responded so strongly to that and were DMing me like, how do you do this? I have this conflict with this person in my family, this person at work, da-da-da. And I was like, I think this is I'm being asked to show up and share. So I started talking about it and online, and then I designed this course, and it really just brought together like so many years of tools that I've gathered that I didn't realize I had been hoarding.
Yes.
Because when you're hoarding gifts and you're not sharing them, you're not really living up to your full potential.
It's so
And
beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
I think it's very, very important. Well, the more you share the situations, the more women outside or also men can learn from this. And I think we need to have all this experience. Oh my God, when I look back, and I was a totally different person. I feel like it was not me. Why? Why I grow so much with all this experience in my life.
And
This
thank
was so
goodness.
important.
And that's why all these experiences are gifts.
Yeah.
And it makes it hard to blame anyone, right? Or to hold a grudge, because it's like, well, if I can have gratitude for this, then I can shift my attitude about it and see the positive in it. And now, like, nothing is really that deep, right?
Yes.
And I thank God I'm the person that I am today. And I wouldn't have been without that.
Yes.
So that's the beauty in it.
That's the beauty. But how do you take care of yourself mentally and emotionally?
Yeah.
How you take care?
We already talked about meditation.
Yeah.
I mentioned journaling. I make sure to keep my inner child alive and well. I am very silly. I have a 12-year-old who helps with that. But when he was really little, it was easier because little kids are like, yay, you're funny. Now he's like, oh my God, you're embarrassing me, Mom. It's like, and he's like preteen, like, ugh.
We had all this experience with our kids.
I'm like, what do you mean? We're in public. I don't know these people. But I think really being youthful and allowing, those hobbies and, interests that we had when we were young to stay alive keeps us vibrant and really like in tune with who we really are. I think we actually know who we are, and then we forget, and then we have to remember, and then we have to but like
our kids remember us. Yeah. Yes.
So that's another thing. And then I do a lot of different practices like Kundalini yoga, insight Vipassana meditation, all of the quote-unquote self-care stuff, from the seemingly superficial, like, doing things that make you feel like you look good. To me, that actually is not superficial. It's actually important, because when you're stepping out into the world, right, it's important how you are received, right? And if I feel like I am this person, but I'm just running to the grocery store and I'm just gonna put on the hoodie and the old sneakers and the things with the holes and just, the baseball cap because I don't want to be recognized or whatever, it's not worth it, because one, my energy is low. I definitely my frequency is lower when I do that. And then two, like, you never know who you're going to meet at the grocery store.
You are right. This is something I think every time, not about what I meet or who I meet. I think I want to be always feel the best version of myself. I want to feel like I go out and I feel like, yes, it's me. Yeah.
Life is celebration.
Yes.
And it took me a very long time to realize that, for so long life was struggle,
Yes, same.
There are mantras. I was raised by amazing parents. Amazing. I chose the best parents as a soul. My goodness. And they also were very active in the civil rights movement with SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and other organizations. And so these kind of mantras like, without struggle, there is no progress, right? Or a luta continua, right? The struggle continues. Like all this stuff is like, life is, And then at a certain point, I was like, hold on, what happens if I let that go for a second and try something a little different? Not to negate the things that need to change in this world, but to approach doing my part in changing them from a place of groundedness, you know, not fight or flight, not constant outrage and irregulation, but like I'm doing my work, I'm taking care of myself so that I can show up in a way that can actually help.
Yeah.
In a way that is not depleting me and is effective. You know,
Wow.
you know what I mean? I feel like I'm figuring that out now in a bigger way.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
You play the role
Uh-oh.
of Whitney
Oh.
Houston.
I know.
Wow. Wow, I love her so much and I love her music and I feel today what this role teach you?
Oh my gosh. So many things, you know. What an icon, like worldwide. I'm sitting here in Dubai. I'm talking to you, you know, who from other Germany and Switzerland and, you know, Miami and and we share this, we have this in common, a love for an icon who influenced our lives in a way that is just like, you know, immediately you say her name and we're like emotional. We're like, oh. So imagine stepping into that role with, you know, it was a very quick process, very little preparation time, 18-day shoot, and to show up and feel the pressure, especially because not much time had passed since she passed when we filmed it.
Then you feel the emotion so strong.
So strong.
Yeah.
And also the critiques around the movie being made so soon. People were not happy about it. There were, you know, certain people that were connected to her in life that felt like they should be involved in the project that weren't, and things like that. So I was like in this position where it's like, okay, I'm an actor for hire, but now I'm having to, saying yes to this is making a decision that feels like a moral one, a cultural one, a societal one, you know, it's like it was so much bigger than a job. And I said yes because of my experience in the audition process with Angela Bassett and in my experience, you know, sitting with her essence, name, memory, and really just trying to understand, like, is this a real full body yes? Am I the right person for this job? They're gonna do it anyway, right? So, okay, said yes, and through everything, what supported me through, like, being able to push through that despite the scrutiny and everything was remembering that she actually experienced the same thing, scrutiny, being misunderstood, being put on a pedestal, you know, being supposed to have been this perfect princess, you know, and having all these other colors to her personality that were not accepted and were not understood, and her right to be herself. Like she that was one of her fights in that life. I think.
You feel it also in the moment when you play the role and you have to go deeper in the situation she was. Did you feel her emotions, what she had or the experience in this moment?
I think that's what I'm getting at, is that the real-time public scrutiny was only a fraction of what she experienced because of this mega star that she was. So I'm like, okay, if this little bit of discomfort is just a fraction of what she experienced, it's also a doorway. It's an entry point into being able to, like, drop into that feeling. So yes, I did, and there were moments, you know, it wasn't throughout, but there were moments. There was one moment on stage when I was performing one of the songs where I felt her spirit.
Oh, wow.
And I was like almost outer body. And after that take, Angela Bassett, the director, came running up to me on stage and hugged me, and she said what I felt. Wow. And I was like,
What an experience.
You felt that too? I was like, oh my God. I was like shaking. And she was like, all right, we're moving on. Like, next scene. I was like, oh my God. I mean, one, because it was a Lifetime movie, very small budget, very quick shoot, but also because it was that potent. Then there was no need to do it again. You know, it was just one of those moments. And it was an honor. It was an honor. Other people have played her since. There have been many movies, and there probably will be more. But to have been the first is an honor that I will never, ever, 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 ever take for granted.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, so beautiful, so beautiful. I'm so proud about you. You deserve it, my dear, you deserve it. Wow, we come to our powerful closing message. I can talk with you for hours. I'm happy that we have time.
Yes, yeah, me too.
Yes. What message would you like to share with our beautiful women who are listening now this episode?
I would like to share it's pretty simple, I think. You know, for many, many of us, we come from lineages or histories in terms of geography or family stories or, you know, past experiences in our own lifetimes that taught us that we needed to change things in order to fit. We needed to fit into a mold in order to be loved, in order to be accepted, in order to be taken seriously, in order to be successful. And my message is, it's a new day. The divine feminine is rising or returning, coming into balance with the divine masculine. And the truth of who we are is really the only truth, you know, that matters in terms of how we show up. And if we can shed those things that we had to learn for survival when we were younger, but as women, you know, decide that now it's my turn to choose, you know, how I get to be.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And I can say at the end, find the people who see you, who you are.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for seeing me so as I am.
Thank
and
you.
I think you are incredible, and the work that you're doing is so beautiful. It's not just a decoration, y'all. This book is gorgeous. I was flipping through it before we started, and I was just like, oh, she's doing such great work. And
I think I can share it today. This was our second edition, and the third edition is coming out this year. And Yaya will be one of the first authors here in the beautiful book, and I'm so happy.
What an honor.
Wow. Thank you so much
for including
this
me.
wonderful talk.
Thank you.
Wow, it was so inspiring. And thank you to everyone who watched and listened. I can say if you are a woman looking for support, connection, and grow, you are very welcome to join our Women Leaders community in Dubai. It is a safe place for women to support and inspire each other. And all information you will find in the description. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this episode of the Daniela Baumann Show. See you in the next episode, and always believe in yourself.